Hey, namaste guys. Hope you are well. So I wanted to make a video while I was meditating this morning, which I'm proud of myself that I did. So it's the start of the year at the point that I'm making this video, and we know how sometimes we make resolutions, though I don't call them resolutions, I call them intentions. Now, I like intentions better, and also I just want to say that, of course, you know, every day, every moment is like a new start. So don't ever get discouraged if you're like, you know, February 3rd and you feel like you've, you know, fallen off your goals or whatever, because that's the whole point, is just restart. But anyway, this isn't about that. I wanted to make a video. I was meditating this morning and I got that I should make a video about what a meditation retreat is like. And so I have a blog post about it. So I'm just going to pull up the blog post because I actually haven't done a meditation retreat in, I think, about 2 years. So, but it was an interesting blog post, and actually it was ranking really well. Now, what I do with my blogs, and this is my problem, is I change their name, and then it unlinks the page, so then you get an error page. So when everything is set up and I leave it alone, it was ranking very well. And so it was about what happens on a meditation retreat. So I want to basically use it as the basis to tell you a little bit about my experience. And if you're thinking that maybe in the future you want to go on a meditation retreat, or you're just curious what that would be like. So hang on, I'm going to pull up my, my blog post. Percy. So I thought we needed a video of what the little bugger is up to. Ghost eyes. Yeah, it's funny, his eyes on the camera are doing that, but they weren't in real life. I thought he was going to do the thing where they chase their tail. Percy! Where they chase their tail around and around and around, which is very, very funny. But he just didn't feel like doing it. Percy! Yes. Oh my gosh, what's happening? So, yeah, it's time to go back to what the video was really going to be about. Thank you for your patience. Okay, hi guys. So I know this is bad, but you're going to see me reading the screen, because whatever. That's just what I'm going to do. Okay? Because I had this great post, like I said. So, and I'm going to put the link below to the post if you'd like to read it. Okay, so you may have wondered, like, what is a meditation retreat? Anyway, now when I was teaching yoga, and I would say to students, oh, I'm going on a retreat, you know, they'd be like, oh, I wish I could go on a retreat, you know, and it just sounded so luxurious, you know. I think they had this fantasy because the word retreat, you know, sounds really nice. And I'm not saying it isn't, but it just sounds easier than it is, okay? So a student in my yoga class said to me, you know, why do they call it a retreat? They should call it an advance. It's like, okay. So I was perplexed, and I was like, what? And they said, well, retreat sounds like you're getting away from something, he said, when you're really trying to gain something, so they should call it an advance. And I thought that was pretty interesting. So this was some years ago now, but I thought that was an interesting comment from a yoga student. I think he'd had some experience of what a meditation retreat is really like. And anyway, so I wanted to share for family, for friends, for yogis and clients a bit about retreats. Since, especially at the time, like I said, I haven't done one for 2 years. I would disappear for what to normal people seems like a long period of time. You know, I disappear from like daily life for maybe a month, and I've done up to 6 weeks. I've done a couple of 6-week meditation retreats. So I had written the blog post to like explain it, and like, 'cause people are like, oh, I don't know, she goes on these retreats, not really sure what she does. So anyway, so what retreats are not. They are not easy. They are not relaxing specifically. They are, but they're not. When people hear retreat, I think they literally think of more like, you know, you lay down, you relax, you're getting a massage. That's what retreat sounds like. It's not relaxing in that way, though I noted in the blog post by the end it is, if that makes sense. Okay. It's not like a vacation to Cancun, for sure. Meditation retreats I'm going to talk about are, hi little monster, are more in the Vipassana or insight meditation tradition. Of course, you know, different retreats are going to be different, but it'll give you an overview. Like, you know, a Zen retreat they have like a different style, but it kind of gives you, like I said, it gives you an overview, okay, that is helpful no matter what type. So it's not like a vacation to Cancun. And what retreats are not, it's not getting away from it all. It sort of is, but if you know anything about meditation, you know, there's that book, Wherever You Go, There You Are. So you're not really getting away from anything. In fact, yeah, you really are going towards yourself. Okay, so meditation is going towards yourself. So let's see, then there's a pretty picture of the Buddha. So what retreats are, and I'm addressing the above ideas in order. So easy, what they are, okay. I'm addressing, are they easy? So here's a typical Buddhist retreat, Vipassana or Theravadan tradition. You wake up around 5:15, 5:30. Now, I am not a morning person. So right there, we have a challenge, okay? So wake up at 5:15, 5:30. Meditate by 6 or 6:30. Have breakfast, which is usually oatmeal because it's cheap. I think that's why they serve that on these retreats. And it's good for you, okay? All that fiber. Okay, oatmeal. Work period, usually about an hour. Meditate. Walking meditation. Meditate. Walking meditation. Meditate. Lunch. Lunch is usually vegetarian and usually very, very good. Okay. A break, usually an hour. You know, you got to shower, you got to like go to your room, whatever. You just need a break. Okay, so it's usually like an hour break. Then, guess what? You meditate. Then walking meditation. Now, the reason you keep alternating sitting and walking meditation, and this is common to almost every type of meditation, sort of, especially from the Buddhist tradition, is you need to balance the body. I mean, there's more to it, but it's, you know, so if you're sitting for 45 minutes to 50 minutes to an hour, that's usually the length, then you walk usually for the equivalent amount of time. It just keeps your body in balance in a great way, versus if you imagine you just try to sit for a really, really long stretch. So typically alternate walking and sitting. Let's see, I think I left off at walking. Then there might be an interview with a teacher sometime in the day. It usually lasts like 10 minutes or so. And what I mean by an interview is the meditation teacher will just check in on you, ask you how you're doing, what types of things are coming up in your mind. For example, do you find that you're just rehashing old stuff from years ago? You may find that's where your mind is going for, like, you know, the last day. Or are you having a lot of anxiety, whatever. So you would check in, you would do an interview with the teacher, then meditate, then walking meditation. Now the afternoon, tea, now I'm talking the hardcore, the one that I took with who I considered my main teacher. He has now passed away. His name is Sayadaw U Pandita. In his tradition, you wouldn't typically if it's a monastic retreat, you don't have dinner. There's no dinner, okay? This is what the little monster is playing with. I know it's probably dangerous for him, but if I tried to hide everything that's dangerous for him, it would just, I don't know. Usually there's no dinner. So you would have tea or fruit or fruit juice. I wrote maybe soup, salad, and bread if it's not a monastic based. So I'll say more about where I usually go at the end. But they might serve you a really nice soup, salad, a nice, really hearty salad, and some freshly made bread, really good bread. That's if it's not monastic, but usually monastic retreats in the Buddhist tradition, there isn't a dinner. You're basically fasting from around midday or when the sun is highest in the sky. Hey, that's what the Buddha did. And I lost 10 pounds at the last retreat that I remember doing that. It was a 30-day retreat and I lost 10. I was visibly thinner. My face was thinner. My pants were loose. And I was hungry. The first couple of times, I'd say the first week or so, you are pretty hungry. You're like, oh my God. And then after about a week, you still have like maybe hunger pangs, but you're kind of like, you're okay. And then, you know, second, third week, you're like, yeah, fruit juice. I mean, you know, You're like, yeah, wow, grape juice, and it actually starts tasting better, and maybe I'll make a separate video about that. So it's afternoon tea or snack, and then often a little break there, and then usually in the early evening there would be what's called the Dharma talk. And so again, if you're meditating in the Buddhist tradition specifically, like not if it's just sort of a secular, non-Buddhist retreat, whoops, hey, get down there, little monster. But there's usually a Dharma talk, just meaning talking about topics related to meditation, related to Buddhist spirituality and so on, and just to help you understand what you're doing, working with your mind and so on, emotions and reality, literally. So that would be called a Dharma talk. That's usually about an hour or so. And then after that, there's walking meditation usually, because you've been sitting, listening, and then meditation, and then bedtime around 9:30 or 10. Okay, so basically, let me go back. The day usually starts about 5:15, and ends around 9:30 or 10, and then you wash, rinse, and repeat. Okay, so that would be a typical retreat schedule. So going back to addressing, that was telling you what I'm doing, so about it not being relaxing in the sense of lying on the beach or watching TV. At some point in a retreat, it usually becomes relaxing. I'll say more about that in part 2. But notice I say at some point, so it's not a vacation. There is no talking. You are in silence. Usually the only time on this type of retreat that I'm talking about at like a meditation center, usually silence is maintained except for your interview with the teacher, of course. You got to talk and tell them what's going on. And even at meals, usually meals are served silently, okay? And it's actually really wonderful. You will find that as you're meditating more and more, you really value the quiet, and it's just not boring at all, okay? So meals are eaten in silence. It can be a little awkward if you're sitting across from somebody. That's what I find awkward. You're sitting across from somebody and you're both eating in silence. That feels a little awkward. Okay, so typically no books, no radio, no TV, no internet, no phone calls, no music. You get the idea, okay? No journaling even. Now, that's a little looser. If you're in your room journaling, obviously no one's going to know. But you're not really expected to, and typically you're told not to journal, because you really just want to be with your mind. So no distractions at all from the mind, yes. No margaritas, no tequilas, okay, because I was saying how it's different than a vacation. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to go on to what was part 2 in the blog post about a meditation retreat. Hold on. Okay, so the next question that I addressed, that I was getting like from my yoga students or people who would hear about a meditation retreat is, okay, so misconception number 4, it's not, quote, getting away from it all. Why not? Because it seems like you got nothing to bother you, so why isn't it getting away from it all? So wherever you go, your mind goes with you, all right? So that means that much of your troubles do indeed follow you, even with no communication with the outside world. So you're still, and this is the whole point of the meditation retreat, you become more aware of what's going on in your mind and what is troubling you from the inside, okay? You will go back all the way to the past, to arguments you've had, disagreements, hurts, all of it. You'll sort of see it really, really clearly. So let me see. So I wrote, so no, your mean boss, parent, mother-in-law, difficult teenager, your bankruptcy, whatever, it's not there, but the conflict continues in your own mind, okay? The conflict continues in our own mind. And so what often seems worse is that with no distractions, it can seem even wilder, because, yeah, there's no TV, there's no magazines, there's no Snapchat or Instagram, so there's no distraction. So, and that's the whole point, is for you to really see what's going on inside. Okay, so why go on retreat? What do you get? And you've done one, why do you do it again? I had a guy say that to me. Someone, seemed pretty nice, very intelligent guy. He was a professor when I was teaching. And he said to me, well, you've done one, why would you do it again? And this isn't an exact analogy, but I think I said to him, well, if you go to church, you've gone once, why would you go back? Or maybe even better, gosh, yeah, I went to that museum once. I don't have to go back again. Well, maybe you saw, 4 or 5 rooms in the museum. And the museum, like the Metropolitan Museum, for example, in New York, it's what, 3 floors, but it's huge. It's all of the art in all of humanity of all time. And I've actually had someone say to me, "Oh yeah, I went there." Like they don't have to go back. And I know they had seen maybe, 1/3 maybe of what the whole museum had. So that's a question. You've done it once. Why do you have to do it again? Just think about that, if that makes sense. That's like saying you wash your face once. Didn't you do that a week ago? You washed your face. Why are you doing it again? You know the answer. Okay. So why go on retreat? So everything becomes more vivid, I wrote. And that, my friend, is the point. Okay, to see the mind and how we perceive and how we think and how we react. And you're seeing your mental process, your emotional process, everything, right, like laid out in front of you. It's really, really fascinating. And you see with absolute clarity. Okay, so I'm going to talk about what can happen over a really, really long retreat, like, a week or so. Physical pain comes up, so knee pain, back pain, shoulder pain, that perhaps you never noticed before. You start to worry or panic, will this ever go away? Because you're there to meditate, and so you're thinking, oh, I just want bliss, You're like, oh, just want to be blissed out. It might be the preconception you come in with, but you're like freaking out because you're having pain, and that's very, very normal. You think, well, this will never go away. How am I going to meditate? This is going to be awful. And then you're like, maybe the meditation is causing the pain. If I weren't sitting with my knees crossed, I wouldn't be having this pain. So that's one of the things that can happen. But then you get calmer, the pain subsides, and often suddenly it just lifts or it becomes much less strong. Mental emotional pain comes up, which I mentioned before, memories of past hurts and incidents. Deeper awareness of what the mind does will develop, and it can be a shocker. Things like constant planning, constant worrying, looking back to memories, replaying them over and over and over. So as we sit calmly, whatever comes up, we start to develop insight into our minds, our neuroses, our blocks, and our weaknesses. So that is really the crux of it, is that as you're sitting there, everything is laid bare internally. So when you see somebody sitting and it looks like nothing's happening, in fact, tons of things are happening for them. Now, there's some types of meditation where they're like, oh, it's just to empty your mind. That is generally a misconception, okay? Because, how can I explain this? Of course, there are different types of meditation, and depending on their goal. If you're hearing that in the type of meditation you're practicing, it's because what they're trying to do is what's called a concentration practice. So they're trying to push out all the things that are there or that bother you and just calm the mind. And that definitely has benefit. But in the tradition that I come from, and overall, especially when you hear about mindfulness, it's not about trying to shut out everything. It's not about trying to shut out, what you're worried about, or shut out, a painful memory. It's about almost having a spaciousness, like an openness around it. The big metaphor, the most common metaphor, it's like your mind is like a blue sky, like an open, clear, beautiful sky, and all of the stuff going on are just like clouds, and they just move by. That's the perspective you want, that spaciousness. So I think I'm going to stop here. I actually have more to say on it as I'm looking. It may not be much more, but I think I'm going to stop here on this part 1 of what a meditation retreat, especially in the Buddhist tradition, what it can be like, and just my experiences. And I'll make a part 2. Namaste.